Why, hello, YouTube. This is BalorMage again for our final update on our League Start build. We are finally changing builds. This is the final version, at least for me, of our Omniscience or Omniscience, or however the hell it is you're supposed to say that. Tornado Shot Deadeye. We are currently ending at 17% XP through level 98. So the build is actually quite tanky now. It is doing tons more damage. Omniscience is very strong. I have to say, I didn't use it at all last league. Too many people were doing Omni builds, and then this league it became a lot harder to get and a lot more expensive, and that made it appeal to me more. So we invested pretty heavily into the whole Omni thing. We did notice ourselves and also get quite a few people in stream telling us that it was very squishy and they were having problems and dying a lot. So we've made quite a few, we've made a few little changes to make it significantly more tanky. So as you can see in the background, what we've been doing for the last few days here is we've been running delirium mirrored super juiced up tropical islands. Those things are getting to 80 to 100% delirious at the end of the map and still handling it well. I'm still leveling. If I continued to play this character, I would level it all the way to 99 and probably 100, but it is 17% through 98 right now, and it's been doing that running this content, which is relatively dangerous content, double beyond, everything like that. So pretty happy with it. It can get quite a tanky state. So we're going to move in game and go over the path of building a little bit just to show everyone what we did. All right, so here is our character in game. Now you can see we still do only have 4k life, which is relatively low, but we've made some pretty big, well, we've made one particular change that's pretty big for tankiness, which is these forbidden jewels. So Forbidden Flame and Forbidden Flesh for Master Surgeon. Now, the important part here is recover 6% of life when you use a flask. Now, that is very, very strong when you use 5 flasks super often. So how do we use our flask super often? Well, it helps a little bit to gain flask charges when you deal a crit. That's great. But what's even better is rolling every single one of your flasks with use when charges reach full, gain 7 charges when you were hit. And then just like having those. And so as I get hit by mobs in these super juicy maps, my flasks are just going off something crazy. And every single time a flask goes off, I gain 6% life, which was just absolutely insane. So that was one change that we made. Another thing that we made that's different from most of the guides from last league that I've seen is we also became stun immune. Now, plenty of people have become ailment immune. That is something I took from other build guides. Chance to avoid ailment rolls on both the implicit and explicit on the boots, and another chance to avoid ailments here on the chest, and then this wheel to become ailment immune. Super good, super important, really good. But I wanted to become stun immune as well, so we rolled this jewel. We ended up using a brutal restraint. Now, a lethal pride is technically better, but they are harder to roll and they don't give you stun immunity, and I wanted stun immunity. I erred a lot more on the side of needing tankiness this league compared to last league. So the important node for me is this chance to avoid stun. So between the nodes we already had on the tree and the craft on the chest and this, that brought us to 80%, which 80% chance to avoid stun, not stun immune. So we got a jewel, didn't even have any life roll on it, just a little bit of damage with bows, a little bit of attack speed, and a little bit of totem damage just as something extra. And it was our corrupting blood jewel, but also 24% chance to avoid being stunned, which put us at a total of 104% chance to avoid being stunned. Very happy with that. So we became stun immune. We've got enough, a quite reasonable amount of chaos res, positive 31, which means against chaos damage over time we're at 71. And then, you know, the normal 22,000 armor, 22,000 evasion, 17,000 armor, suppress cap, and a Watcher's Eye for, realistically, I should have divined that to 30, but I never did. 27 life gain on hit while affected by vitality. All of that put together brought us up quite a bit in the tankiness department. This is how we got it. The last thing we did was we also took the you take 50% reduced damage from critical strikes. I actually think critical strikes are super dangerous right now. In fact, it's close to it's probably close to the only thing that's killing you, and there's no indication you've been crit in most cases. So getting a little bit of crit reduction, also super helpful. I also found myself, once I'd fully respect and I'd lost all these nodes and I didn't have any crit nodes except here and here, I found myself just shy of crit cap, and I really didn't want to put a diamond flask on, so my last medium ended up being a pressure point quick getaway just to bring myself back up to 100%. I never leveled high enough to get another medium in. I very well could have. I could have fit another medium in, I think with one more level. One RMR jewel, and I could have taken this out. And then one more level gets me another point. And then I can drop these two because I don't actually need them for suppress cap. And then suddenly I've got 4 more points. And so with one more level, I would have had another medium in, which for me would have just been another repeater streamlined. I also did replace most of my jewels with stat and all res rolls on them so that I could get a little bit of omniscience and a little bit of all resistance, because we only have 1200 omniscience right now. But that does get us to res cap. So this has been one of my most fun builds, and I low-key wanted to level it all the way to 100. It was super fun, but I really need to move on to a new build. So we do have the path of building here. So the one other thing I changed from last time was, you can see my DPS is actually, I think it actually went down technically from last time, even though I changed into omniscience. Why did that happen? It happened because my damage got too big and I decided I needed more clear speed for my maps. So I swapped out my totem setup to a second tornado shot, which just gives me disgustingly better clear. But if we turn off the tornado shot and we put storm rain totems back in, suddenly we're now doing 35 million DPS, which is quite enough for all the bosses, every boss in existence. We are still not really like giga boss tanky. Like if you want to do the uber bosses and you're not good at dodging stuff, probably isn't. It just doesn't have the defenses for that. We are pretty damn tanky for mapping, and we can do all the regular boss content. We can even do feared, but all of the giga bosses, just a little bit too dangerous, at least for me at my play level. We do only have 125% increased life and only 4k total, with an effective hit pool of only 100k, and that's in maps because it is a mapping build. If we set it to Cirrus, our effective hit pool goes down. Also, if we set our boss damage to Cirrus, we still end up with 33.9 million DPS, which is quite a lot. Quite a lot of deeps. Really happy with this build. Omniscience is very strong. If you can afford it and you haven't given it a go, absolutely give it a go. If you want to invest slightly more than me, there's a few extra things that we can do that make it just a little bit better. One, I think the Headhunter's trash. I've now been wearing it for nearly 2 weeks, and I've just run out of copium. So if I was up to doing this again, I would use a synth double percent stat belt and then craft it with some flat stats, and then I would rejigger some things and get myself an inspired learning and just put it in here. It should only cost you 2 extra passive points, because you're just going to take that frenzy charge for 2, and if you're really desperate, you could just take that power charge for 1, and you're already in that area. So the only issue is I would have to get my Corrupting Blood immunity and my stun immunity off jewels, which means some jewel in here, any one of them would need to be corrupted with Corrupting Blood immunity, and any one of them would need to be corrupted with chance to avoid stun. That's it. I would put in one inspired and use a double belt. That would be great. We did end up crafting a new weapon, but we still went relatively cheap on crafting the new weapon. So while it's quite good and it is 1100 DPS with an extra arrow, it is still not by any means the best kind of bow we could have got. First of all, we could get synth implicit extra arrows. We could get Bowfire's 2 additional arrows. And I think you can get up to like 13 to 1400 with a reasonable budget, and like 1500 with like a god tier budget on DPS. So there's plenty of room to move on the weapon. You can also use synthesized additional arrow quivers that are rolled with additional arrows. So you can get 2 more arrows out of your weapon and 1 more arrow out of your quiver, or I'm missing 3 additional arrows right now, which for Tornado Shot is absolutely insane. This build has so much more it could min-max. So much more. It's actually ridiculous. The one other thing that I will mention is we ended up dropping precision from our setup because I wanted to get myself a level 21 Blood Rage because I couldn't fit it in any other way. And so the only way to do that was to get 3 accuracy rolls instead of 2 accuracy rolls, which means I have accuracy on that ring, accuracy on that ring, and accuracy on those gloves, which is fine. We crafted all the gear ourselves, so making those decisions is fine. But it did get us Blood Rage, and the reason we couldn't fit it anywhere except our helm is because I insist on having a castman damage taken Molten Shell instead of one that I activate manually. I think I'm just not a good enough player to activate Molten Shell quick enough to save my life when I need it, and I think putting it on left click is a waste of time, so I just don't do that. And if I'm gonna have a Molten Shell or a guard skill, it's just gonna be on castman damage taken. That's just the way it is. So I've given up a pretty decent amount of power overall. Looking at all the different places, I've given up a little bit of damage here and a little bit of damage there and a little bit of damage there, and most of it was just in the name of becoming more tanky. But it's paid off. We're level 98 and leveling through level 98 in very dangerous content, so I'm super happy about it. I would love to spend 2 or 3 mirrors on a build like this, but I think it's time that I made something else. So we did spend most of today crafting gear for my new character, who you will all see soon. But that is all for this. Path of building will be in the description. I hope anybody who's been following along or decides to make it has a fantastic time. It's been very, very fun. And I will see everybody later.